out there that can do that, you know.
We started farming in '61. We rented 50/50. Every night we went to bed, the rent was paid. We got up in the morning and started paying rent. Until we bought a farm there. Then it was the other way. We had to make the farm payments.
That wasn't uncommon for your generation to
There was no, and then the milk price was good, and it was like $8, $9, and it went to $3 in '64. And there was no government handout. In '64 we didn't get no corn crop. There was no handout. We made it.
Yeah, I think that, I would say that more of this is about, you have young people that, I mean, we have a bigger population. You're right, we have more urban people, and there are some kids that live in the cities that could only dream that dream, like my husband's great-great-grandfather that left Pennsylvania and went across to Montana, worked in the jail, and bought a ranch. Leveraged that ranch and bought his next ranch. Leveraged that one and bought his next one. Before you know it, he owned the whole Bitterroot Valley. I don't think that there's very many people that have that kind of money unless they are incredibly wealthy. I mean, you couldn't start sweeping jail cells now and buy a ranch, I don't think.
Well, that's a big concern today, you know. Where are these young farmers going to come from?
Yeah.
Part of the answer to that, though, is this older generation understood self-denial and deprivation. They didn't have everything and want anything. There wasn't vacations and boats and all that and but see, that was how it was.
We went to Spillo.
It was, yeah. You know, the work ethic was different. The dreams were maybe the same, but first come get your bills paid and things like that. And it seems to be a different attitude today, you know.
We didn't have snowmobiles. We didn't have.
We didn't have TV the first 3 years we were married either.
We lived on Long Road. That's how we started.
Okay. All right, so that's an added one there. I'm going to ask another question here. So, I have a friend who has a very large ranch in Idaho, family corporation, and his youngest daughter is about to take over the family corporation. So, one thing I see is, so I'm going to ask you, and this isn't a sexist question or a feminist question, but what do you think about daughters taking over their father's properties or their family farms? That is a thumbs up.
Dr. Jill, how old is she and she's single?
That's what I was wondering.
No, she is not married, and she is 36 years old.
Okay, never mind.
Going to see.
That's almost cougar, so.
Yeah, and there's no problem with that. I mean, they can do just a good job. Anybody,
So if you'd have daughters, no problem.
no problem.
Excellent. Well,
We even got a little granddaughter we got right.
okay.
She ran kids
In Africa, the women are farmers and the guys are herders.
She rode with me 16 years, and if it goes on as long as 17 years, she rode with me in the combine.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
She says she's kicking me out here, so.
Excellent. So one of the other things, if you were, so this is this goes back to the question of getting people back onto the farms. Because we know, Lauren was at a function not that long ago, and he was saying when he was finished, there were a lot of farmers in their 70s come up to him and talking to him about, you know, their farms and whatnot, and they didn't have anybody take over. So if you had a farm and you didn't have an heir, and if somebody came to you and said, and they worked for you and they worked hard for you, would you work with them to purchase your farm?
last dollar that maybe if I hired a farm management company or sold it to the highest bid. So it's a very personal thing on that one, you know, your
Okay.
goals.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I think that's true. You know, it depends upon the individual, of course.
It does, yeah.
You look back in their past history, their work ethic and that type of thing.
So that would be important.
Yeah, then there would be no problem, you know.
Work ethic and ethics.
God knows we're gonna give it to the kids. Not a penny over.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd echo what the rest of them said, it's saying,
You'd wanna build a personal relationship with the person that was gonna rent your farm. Even if they were renting your farm, would you want to have a personal relationship with that person? Like know them pretty well?
But that's, yes, I totally agree, we want to, but that probably really is missing in the farm management sector, you know. Go hire a farm manager, because, I'll just, mom doesn't know anything about farming, I'll just use that as an example. And so she would have to really be trusting a young farmer coming in, so she's gonna hire somebody to take that burden away. But
Very
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else got questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Joe.
Sure.
So, I had the pleasure of visiting a company gentleman on your farm, over the past couple days here with Lauren and Dr. Clapperton. Do you think you have anything worked into your, will or direction as to a legacy approach as to how your soil should be managed in the future? Because you worked your entire career to manage your soil in such a way that you work tirelessly to build it up and develop it. Have you incorporated that thought process into trying to instill that goes on to future generations?
No, we haven't done that, my wife and I, but we're here to see what our kids are doing with this soil. They're doing a better job than we did. So it's not something that we have to worry about in my case.
I would echo that. I have a son that's farming, and he has an ethic of, actually, he'll maybe say, you should go around the hill a little more when you lay that strip out or something. So, yeah, but if it was an unknown factor who was gonna farm it, then that's a very good point to add something in your legacy, if you will.
I think if I were to rent out my acres to somebody else, I would stipulate in the land rent that it would have to be farmed like that.
I can't say that, mine's in good hands.
Okay. Well, we're glad to know that.
I think, most of us, within the family, if there's somebody there, we have groomed them and conditioned them, so almost cloned them to be, have the land ethic that we have. So I know in my case, that's how it would be, how it is, you know.
So you don't feel a need to actually have that written into your
I don't, but it's already instilled in my son that that's the only acceptable way is have a land ethic that,
You know, we just went through an estate, and what they wrote down, their wishes, when the kids got a hold, didn't mean did it. Did it, Mom?
My mother died here on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And the things that my mother told, I took care of her for how many years and went up there, and the things that she told me, what she wanted to wear for her funeral, you know, and all the things that she told me. As soon as she died, I had two sisters, and that she's gone now. We can do just as we please. And that is the truth. And they did.
So it would be very important to stipulate
Yeah, but
something
that don't
like
mean
that.
nothing.
That don't.
That don't mean nothing.
It don't mean nothing.
Once you sit there and make that final arrangements, the Georgia takes over real fast.
Okay. Well, is there any
What did they
other,
say, you never seen a U-Haul at the cemetery?
That's what Bree said on the sermon. He said, I got 5 cemeteries I take care of, you know. And he said, when I get done, I never seen a U-Haul there yet, they never got
how they introduce fertilizer to farmers and how they introduce anhydrous and other chemicals. Can you guys?
Well, Morrell used to be a co-op manager. That's many years ago, Dick knowed him. And, you know, he was a pretty good boy, and, he had these little yellow spots in the cornfield. He'd come out and he'd talk to you, and he said, can I take anhydrous out there and put it on? If it don't straighten the corn out, it won't cost me nothing. And he promoted and did a lot of good that way, you know.
He just, say, can I just
Demonstrated.
demonstrate a few rows for you? No, hey, it won't hurt you a bit, let me try, it won't come, go ahead. And he just had to bring it to us, and
Well, and then Landis, that's before I moved down here, they started the fertilizer down here, and that kind of brought it about, you know, they started using more of this stuff, you know.
I'm in the retail, was farming and very active in cover crops conservation. And that's how I kind of see it growing slowly, because it isn't as dramatic as hybrid seed corn or nitrogen fertilizer. So the cover crops are kind of a hard sell, if you might put it that way.
Started fertilizer into the war, just barely started, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, question.
All right,
What do you think the impact of farm subsidies been on your life and what effect is it having on young farmers trying to start out?
They always said if you don't farm the government, you aren't farming right.
Was
Well, I tell you, for example, one year, we had the crops and everything paid for, and they came with that disaster. And we got a check in the fall, and February we got one for the same amount, and I said, I've never seen things so good. I said, I've never seen so damn much money we didn't want, you know. That's the God honest truth.
farm subsidies, I don't know, you know, we're 1% or whatever of the population. If they'll continue, who knows, but we're certainly not popular in Washington, or important, maybe it's more the word, in Washington DC, so, but how they've affected us as farmers, or starting young farmers is your question, Greg, maybe? Necessary evil, I suppose. Basically, they've been a traditional corn bean farm, about the taxes, have a wash, usually the payments were, depending on the exception of disaster programs.
I'll tell you another good one. The feed store on town here, my son owns it and burned down. And he was telling that taxes were $148. This year it's $6,000.
1,400.
Yeah, 1,400, it went to $6,000. And ours went up $1,910 on our land. So, you know, it takes a lot of money to run.
so you have no problem with the farm subsidies, you're all.
By the time you pay your land taxes, the income taxes and stuff, and then all the food stamps, give me more.
Joe, I have another question. As older gentlemen, the same problem exists in Canada. There's a lot of older landowners and actively farming older landowners that are they're on the dole, so to speak, because they're subsidized by the government with an old age pension, okay, as well. So on a year when there's lots of income at the farm level, the pension gets clawed back. On a year when there isn't as much, they get more of the pension kicked in. Do you think there should be an age of attrition for farmers whereby they're no longer entitled to any farm income to help the next generation be motivated, or for them to be motivated to find a farm successor earlier on in their career?
Well, I had a stroke when I was 67, and I rented it out ever since, and I well, I can CRP, that's all. That's all I got, a little bit CRP.
So you want to,
When you reach the age
A
of
certain-
old age security,
okay,
okay, so either you can elect to still be farming,
but would forego government pay.
everything.
Okay.
If you're still actively employed,
Yeah, you get Social Security,
you're done.
you can get that and do whatever you feel like, but you
well, I'm done, I'm gonna get my pension, we'll call it. And so a young man could take over and then he could resume getting the government payments that were traditionally, went with that farm?
It's possible, yeah.
Yeah.
You're saying the opposite of that.
I'm saying the
Opposite of that.
Yeah.
So once you're 65, you no longer get any money from the government. If you want to keep farming.
You can still farm,
Is he still farming?
maybe a farm, and you can milk it as long as you can farm, you know.
Well,
That-
the way,
that's-
the
that
way
wouldn't happen.
all that is now.
That shouldn't happen in our country.
No.
There's
Daycare milk.
discrimination,
Well,
you know, such thing.
you know, the
Yeah,
agricultural farmers got subsidized. You gotta remember that the hog man don't get a subsidy and the cattle man don't get a subsidy. Farmers in general aren't living off the government. Look at your poor dairyman now, or your cattle feeder, or your hog man, so.
All three of them have copies.
Right, the government salaries for an opportunity for taxable income, and they need to drop that date.
Milk ain't there, program for milk.
I'm just throw that out in the conversation.
Okay,
Where's the minimum?
so I'm gonna open up for one more question, and after that, is there anybody else who wants to ask another question? All right. Well, I'm gonna say, that it's been a great pleasure meeting all of you. It's been wonderful being on, I haven't been on your farm,
You would be more than welcome.
but I'm thankful. I have been on the other 3 farms, and I'm grateful for your conservation efforts.
Was you in the lawnmower?
Hmm?
Was you in the lawnmower?
All over out there.
All around here, I've
We
been.
haven't had time to get to that part.
We haven't been all of them, so much time in a day. But
Helicopter.
but I do really appreciate the efforts that you've made. I'm sure we all really appreciate what you've done to sort of steward your land and transition to your family members. And we hope they continue on for some time until you actually want to stop. So on behalf of everyone, thank you so much.
There's the guy that needs to applaud right there.
Thank you.
I'm just carrying on what I've learned and taught, and as I said the other day, part of knowledge is sharing. That's why I'm here.
No, the one.
I learned, had a good teacher.
I say, once we got away from cattle manure, you didn't have to chisel it out, and they went off and roadkill, it made a big difference.
I think we can all say that the only crop that counts for us is our family, what we grow up.
Yeah.
Well,
Best words in the.
All right, I think we should finish that. The only crop that counts is your family. I think those are words to live by. Thank you so much.
And be careful, he might be everywhere.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. I hope it was worth it.